I said I wanted some help him. I'm gonna put this somewhere.
Good morning and welcome to the Berry County Board of Commissioners meeting for March 26, 2024. If you would please stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for rain, for it fills our lakes and prepares our fields for a bountiful harvest this year. We thank you for this time of Easter as we pause and think about reflection, think about how we can be better people, better servants for our community and for those around us. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. For purposes of attendance, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Doster.
Present.
Fulton.
Here.
Gaddy.
Here.
Smelker.
Here.
Hatfield.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Tunison.
Here.
Jackson.
Here. Thank you. Reports from state and county officials. Do we have any state or county officials with us today that would like to address the board? Hearing none, we will move ahead. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning, Eldon Schellenberger. I'd like to announce that I am for Carlton Township. I am running for Township Trustee. Thank you.
Thank you, Eldon. Additional public comment.
Good morning, Gary White, Nashville. I just delivered to your board chairman a Freedom of Information Act request that says any and all communications and times to and from all commissioners, county officials, and attorneys for the statement made on behalf of the Berry County Board of Commissioners by Chairman Jackson at the last COW meeting on Dominion investigation. I'm sure most of you had read this and stuff, but it says the Board of Commissioners did not review or authorize any such investigation into Dominion and or their representatives. Sheriff Leaf is acting on his own behalf and in coordination with other individuals who have ongoing concerns about the 2020 election. We continue to support our local clerks and believe that elections in Berry County are continuing with the utmost integrity and professionalism. At the last meeting, your chairman said county commissioners need to stay in their lane. I do not believe that Berry County commissioners were elected to authorize investigations. I do believe our sheriff was. Something else that should have been in full disclosure, I'm not sure if you guys did it, but you can have their commissioners' comments acknowledge that you were part of this statement or not and save Berry County a lot of time, whoever's going to have to do this FOIA request. I don't appreciate that our elected sheriff is, people are using their political positions to try to interfere with an ongoing criminal investigation. So with your name being all attached to this, you might want to answer in public that you are part of this statement or not, because it's going to come out one way or another. I am just amazed that interfering with an investigation is a crime, isn't it? Especially an ongoing investigation. So that's where I'm at this point in time. But I'll probably be back a little bit later to add a few more things. Thank you.
Additional public comment?
Oh, go ahead, Larry. No, go ahead.
Larry Bass, Carlton Township. It's good to be back. First off, I'd like to thank Tunison, Smoker, and Carlton for showing leadership last week on the Second Amendment resolution. Okay, we need more of that from all of you guys. Number two, which board rules are we using? The one that's on the website is from 1/3/23. Okay, and I know some changes were made about 1/16 or like that, so I'd like to find out which one we're using and when's going to get updated. Okay? Short and sweet.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, you know me, mine's probably not going to be as short or sweet. Cindy Twitchell, Prairieville Township. I have not been able to attend the Board of Commissioners meetings for a while. I have been watching them, though. After watching last week's meeting online, I adjusted my schedule so that I could be here today. I am letting you know up front that I am going to be asserting my God-given right protected by the First Amendment of the Federal Constitution, Article 1, Section 3, Article 1, Section 5 of the Michigan Constitution, which clearly states that it needs no further interpretation. I will be speaking today for approximately 4 minutes, 45 seconds, unless I am interrupted. Last week, my representative on this board made some eye-opening comments that need to be addressed and corrected. I am going to address the most egregious ones stated. First comment. We are setting a bad precedent if we go forward with this resolution. We've kind of taken the position that symbolic resolutions we wouldn't deal with. If something comes from MTA, like wind, I think that's a little different. This did not come from MTA. Need I remind you all that you do not work for the MTA. You work for me and everyone else in this county. The resolution presented to you regarding solar was presented to you by the residents within the county, not the MTA. Just as the resolution regarding defending our constitutional right to bear arms, which is another word for supporting the God-given rights of citizens, and is protected by the Federal Constitution, Second Amendment, and the Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 6. Second comment, this is problematic. I mean, it can be interpreted in all different kinds of ways. Well, this statement is actually correct. It can be interpreted in all different kinds of ways, but there really truly is only one interpretation. To get the true interpretation, let's hear what one of our forefathers who helped frame the federal Constitution had to say. And of course, my book got switched. Sorry about that. I grabbed the wrong book. Thomas Jefferson, I'm going to be paraphrasing his quote, said that you have to go back to the time it was written. Look at all the debates that were given. Take the definitions of the times and the date of when it was written, then make your interpretation. You cannot squeeze what your interpretation of what you want it to be out of it. Third comment, the Michigan Constitution is an enormous document. Yes, it is an enormous Michigan Constitution, one that you all took an oath to support. If you haven't read and studied it, tell me how you were able to take an oath to support it with any integrity. Fourth comment, are we saying there will be no more amendments to it? Well, it really amuses me that my representative chose the one and only amendment that no longer exists, as it was repealed by the 21st Amendment, proving that the Constitution can be amended, but there is a process that needs to be followed. Fifth comment, I am almost done. Are we saying that all case law in the last 230 years that isn't mentioned can be interpret the Constitution? Can the state legislature make laws and interpret or change gun laws? Well, unfortunately, the statement regarding case law not being mentioned, the original resolution sent to you had a sheet attached, set of law with it, that supports the original resolution.
Thank you, Cindy.
Now regarding the statement that was made about picking and choosing the laws we want to follow. Not all laws enacted are lawful. Any law that violates either or both the federal and Michigan Constitution is an unlawful law, as stated in Marbury versus Madison. Thus, the particularly phraseology of the Constitution of the United States confirms and strengthens the principles supposed to be essential to all written constitutions, that a law repugnant to the Constitution is void, and that courts, as well as other departments, are bound by that instrument. That rule must be discharged. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Hearing none, approval of written agenda. At this time, any member of the board may ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration. Hearing no such request, does any commissioner wish to change the agenda additionally?
Mr. Chairman, we have one mistake on the agenda. Item J, approval it's on the agenda states approval to reappoint William Matson and Lorraine Lindsay. If you refer to the agenda request form, the actual action is to reappoint Bob Becker and Lorraine Lindsay.
Bob Becker and Lorraine Lindsay. Thank you. Good catch. Does any commissioner wish to change the agenda additionally? Hearing no such request, the agenda is approved as amended. Various correspondence. Do commissioners have any correspondence they wish to share with the board? Hearing none. Consent agenda. Commissioner Tunison.
I better have a lot of wind. Item A, approval of March 12th, 2024 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes. Item B, approval of March 14th, 2024 Personnel and Human Services Committee meeting minutes. Item C, approval of March 19th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Item D, approval to reappoint Dave Hatfield to serve on the Berry County Solid Waste Oversight Committee in the position representing the Planning Commission for a one-year term that begins on 1/1/24, expires on 12/31 of 2024, as approved by the Berry County Planning Commission on January 22nd, 2024. Item E, approval to enter into attached 2024 monumentation surveyor agreements with Arrow Land Surveyors Incorporated, Crane Land Surveying, PC, Excel Engineering Incorporated, Jonker Land Surveying, PC, Land and Resource Engineering, LRE, R.D. Miller Land Surveying, and Brightman, and to authorize the chairperson and grant administrator to sign the attached agreement on behalf of the county. Item F, approval to appoint the following licensed surveyors to the Berry County Remonumentation Peer Review Board in 2024. Stephen C. Kober with Arrow Land Surveying Incorporated, Michael P. Pratt with Jonker Land Surveying, PC, Rodney Lee Bertwig with Land and Resource Engineering, LRE, and Ryan Miller with R.D. Miller Land Surveying, and to authorize the chairperson and grant administrator to sign the attached agreement on behalf of the county. Item G, approval of the attached court service specialist 1 position, grade level 5, on the BCEA pay scale. The request eliminates administrative assistant and legal secretary positions. Grade level 4 on the BCCEA pay scale, effective February 24, 24th of 2024. Item H, approval to reclassify the adult specialty courts administrative assistant position, grade level 4 on the BCCEA pay scale, to an adult specialty courts operator coordinator position, grade level 6 on the BCCEA pay scale as described in the attached job description effective February 24th of 2024. Item I, approval to reappoint Craig Jenkins to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term, begins at 4/1 of 2024 and expires 3/31 of 2027. Item J, approval to reappoint Bob Becker and Lorraine Lindsay to serve on the Berry County Community Mental Health Authority Board for a 3-year term that begins April 1st of 2024 and expires March 31st of 2027. Item K, approval to reappoint Vivian Connor to serve in the position of a citizen at large on the Berry County Tax Allocation Board for a 1-year term that begins 4/1 of 2024 and expires on 3/31 of 2025. Approval to appoint William Matson and Thomas Taylor to serve on the Berry County Planning Commission for a 3-year term that begins at 5/1 of 2024 and expires 4/30 of 2027. Item M, approval to appoint Lloyd, Elliston, to serve on the Berry County Planning Commission for a partial term that begins 5/1 of 2023 and expires 4/30 of 2026.
Good job. I think that's the longest consent agenda we've ever had.
I've been good for about 4 months.
Motion by Tunison, supported by Getty for all items listed on the consent agenda. Discussion is not allowed and a roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye, opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Foster.
Aye.
Alton.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. Presentations. We have presentations this morning. Jamie Lewis Hedges, Executive Director of the Berry County Conservation District, with the annual report. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. So happy to be here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our annual report with the Board of Commissioners. I want to start off by saying thank you, Michael. I was looking for that. I want to start off by explaining briefly that conservation districts are local conservation offices putting federal and state money into local control. To that end, we are governed by an elected board of local residents, and I'll share more with you about that later on in the annual report. Our conservation staff that does the work on the ground, I have with me here this morning. I'm going to ask them to stand up over here. In 23, we were joined by Sarah Wedeman, who's our new BCK SISMA coordinator, and by April Savickas, who is our program specialist. We also have Rachel France, who you know, our conservation technician and recycling coordinator, and Ben Savoy, our district forester. Thank you. So on the next slide, which I think is, there we go. That's Sarah. All right, next slide. Okay, so starting off with Berry Recycling is one of our impact areas for the district. We're thankful to be partnering with Berry County on the recycling program. We had in 23 3 collection events, which included the collection of 4,500 plus tires, 3,000 pounds of electronics, and 45,000 pounds of hazardous waste. So a really good impact there. Next slide. In our farm assurance area, the flagship program for that is the Michigan Agricultural Environmental Assurance Program. We say MEAP for short, MAEAP, and you can, as you see on the slide, those farms are designated with a sign that you see sometimes alongside the roadside that says this farm is environmentally verified. That program is a non-regulatory local resource to mitigate environmental challenges on local farms. And in '23, we are serviced by the grant that's held with Ionia County, and so that technician works in both Ionia and in Berry County with local farmers. And we had in Berry County 50 farms working with that program. That partnership led to 42 NRCS contracts being initiated, which represents a value greater than $200,000 in Berry County. One challenge that we are facing in '24 is that the current proposed state budget restructures the MEAP program within MDARD, removing it from local conservation districts and making it state employees. We recognize as a district, as the conservation district, we recognize that we have work to do to better serve local farms. And so one of the actions that was taken this year on the part of the board was to form a conservation needs committee and working group. That group is going to be a way to listen to local needs on the ground, and they are brainstorming ways to have those conversations with local stakeholders and for that to influence our strategic plan and our conservation needs assessment. Next slide. You're on it. Forestry assistance area. So in '23, our tree sale sold 4,279 trees and shrubs. And our current tree sale orders have been open and are underway, and we're nearly sold out for that sale. Ben, our district forester in '23 serviced 2,656 acres across our service area, which includes Berry County, Allegan County, and Ottawa County. And 1,500 acres were right here in this county. That represents an estimated economic impact of $428,000 and $211,000 in Berry County itself. Event-wise, we offered 10 total field days in '23, and 5 of those were focused on the White Oak Initiative, which is encouraging the planting and the maintenance of inventory in the White Oak area. A brief snapshot of this year on the next slide. In touching base on the fact that we do work in forest areas and in remote areas, not only here in Berry County, but across our service area, we have staff that is regularly in areas that if an accident were to happen, the advanced medical service would probably be delayed in getting there. And so we recognize that there was a need for risk management and for us to be able to add our level of expertise in that area. So we worked with Wilderness Medical Associates to offer a wilderness first aid training for our staff, and we opened that up to the public as well, which taught them how to stabilize someone until advanced medical services could get there if they were in a remote area in our county or any of our service areas. On the next slide, as a partner, Berry Conservation District is a partner of BCK SISMA, which stands for the Berry Calhoun Kalamazoo Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. And our role in that is that our staff includes a strike team working on controlling invasive species across those counties. In '23, there were 3,000 acres surveyed, 150 acres managed, which included removing 495 red swamp crayfish. Going into '24, we're really thankful that we were able to, we were awarded $196,000 in grants for the continued work on managing invasive species. In waterways, on the next slide, in '23, we maintained 4 natural shorelines and stabilized 4,451 square feet, 140 linear feet of shoreline here in Berry County. We cleaned 12 miles of the Thornapple River, which led to 20-plus bags, garbage bags, and 4 tires, and 28 volunteers showed up at our days to help do that work. Outdoor Youth Day is one of the most, on the next slide, is one of the most celebrated events that we are a part of here in Berry County. In 23, we were really thankful to be able to get this event off the ground again following the pandemic, and thankfully to the support of 12 partners who worked with us, we were able to get that going again, and we had 328 people total in attendance. That included 239 children. This year, in '24, our focus is to get that back up to the numbers that we saw pre-COVID, which was at our highest years, we were looking at 900 children specifically. And so we're working really hard already to get that into place. The date set for that is September 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Charlton Park. Our motto this year is bring a kid, be a kid. Faces of Conservation, on the next slide, is our event that is a social celebrating professionals in natural resources and conservation. And this year, just last month, it was attended by 105 people representing 30-plus organizations. At that event, with Fred Flowers' term ending, we had an open position on the board, an election was held, and our new board member is David Camo. As a part of that, we celebrate people who have outstanding contributions to conservation efforts in the region. And that's the Partner in Conservation Awards. There's 3 categories in those awards. In the professional category, the awards and nominees were Josh Ritchie of Pro Habitats, who was an award winner, Matthew Dykstra of Pierce Cedar Creek, an award winner, and Mary Parr of Pierce Cedar Creek, nominated. In the volunteer category was David Chase, award winner, Jack Bortz, award winner, Mark and Eileen Perkins, award winner, and Amy Seymour, nominee. And finally, in the organization category, the award was presented to the Hastings Rotary Club for their commitment to Operation Pollination, and was received by club members Michelle Schedule, Jessica Phillips, and Catherine Getty. Lastly, as a part of this event, we also publish a directory of conservation organizations throughout the 5-county region, and we're currently in the process of distributing that directory. I'll share those with you after I finish here momentarily. On the next slide. Last year in '23, Rachel France started a Zoom meeting called Conservation Fridays. And on the first Fridays of the month, she would interview people that were doing work in conservation about their work and how that was making an impact in the area. This year in '24, we are formatting that as a live podcast. So on first Fridays and sometimes on the third Fridays at 12:30 on Facebook, we live stream an interview with a conservation professional sharing what they do and how that benefits the area. And then when we finish that, we upload it to podcasts anywhere that you may listen to podcasts. So I encourage you to take advantage of that resource. And then finally, I wanted to share that on the next slide, as now that we have David Camo on the board, the way our board is currently includes Marty Bueller as vice chair, David Camo as chair, Ben Reinhardt, Sarah Parr-Siswota as treasurer and secretary, Lauren Tripp, and your own Mark Doster as our Board of Commissioners liaison. Finally, I just want to thank you again very much for the opportunity to present, for the opportunity to work with you. We are thrilled to be a part of this effort in natural resource conservation in Berry County and our surrounding area. Thank
Awesome.
you.
We appreciate all you do. Questions from commissioners?
Yes.
When you say you work with local farmers, is that more organic farming, or what are you working with local farmers on?
No, so through the meat program in particular, the focus is on mitigating environmental issues on that farm in a way that is the information is privately protected. So if a farmer has the meat tech come on and talks to them about concerns they have on their property, that information is protected so that it's private between them and the meat technician. And then the meat technician not only helps them put together a plan for mitigating that, but also that can lead to money, particularly through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS, that can help them get that work done.
Okay.
Additional questions? Commissioner Getty.
If a resident wants assistance with invasive species or maybe a natural shoreline, is there a cost to that, and what's the process that they would do to contact you?
The second answer first, they can contact us at the Conservation District. The shortest way to get that contact information for the right person is on barrycd.org, barrycd.org, and you can find our contact page there for contacting the right person. What resources are available to them start off with free consultation, and that's true of any of the services that we provide. To have a conversation, to have us come out to the property and look at what you're facing and talk about what your objectives are is always free across any of the programs. Depending on what those objectives are and what support is needed, depends on whether or not there's a cost to that or not. So for invasive species, sometimes we're able to do a cost share for that. Sometimes, depending on what the species are, we have money to cover that treatment. For other programs that we don't have grants for, such as right now putting together a natural shoreline, frequently we can figure out a way that we can bring support to you for some fee-for-service to that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smelker.
Did I hear you say that MDARD took something over and took some local control away, and what's your thoughts on that?
So the current proposal at the state level on that is that they want to remove the meat program from local conservation districts and house it within the MDARD agency. The reasons why they've represented that they want to do that is to provide better benefits and consistency across the meat program. We have concerns that what we're hearing on the ground from local farmers is that because that meat program protects the private information of a local farmer, which enables them to be able to make improvements on their property without fear of reprisal, they feel less sure working through those details with a state employee as opposed to somebody at their local conservation district.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not fond of MDARD, so.
Additional questions? Jamie, you mentioned white oak.
Yes.
Why white oak versus red oak versus something else? What's the push towards white oak right now?
That, I'll give my perspective on that, and that's something that Ben, as the district forester, can probably answer better than I can. But the short end is that there's a recognition that white oak trees in particular are right now very underrepresented in the forest inventory. And white oak in particular not only have, as oak trees, distinct benefits to the forest ecosystem, but there's a lot of industries that heavily depend upon oak trees for the material that they get for them. And so responding to that, a lot of organizations have gotten together to form this initiative and encourage the planting and the management of white oaks across the nation.
Okay. interesting. I just wondered if they were more disease resistant or something like that versus other species, because I know that oak wilt is certainly an issue.
That's correct. Yeah, I believe that, I'm going to defer to Ben again in a moment. Maybe he can start off his presentation speaking to that, but I do believe that white oak can be more resilient, in particular to white oak, or I'm sorry, to oak wilt than can red oaks. Which would be another benefit to having white oaks, because that would encourage the health of the forest.
Should I save my question about emerald ash borer for Ben also?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, we'll do one more question. We've had discussions in the last 3 or 4 years about the rise of Japanese knotweed in the county. I know there are several stands right in the area, in Cloverdale, Delton, in that area. Any update on how those treatments are going?
Yeah, can I have Sarah come on up? I'm going to have our invasive species coordinator speak to that.
Thank you.
So in terms of road right-of-ways, we've been treating any, excuse me, any infestations that we're aware of. So one, if you see new patches that you don't think we're treating, send it our way. But we treat on the county managed roads, but also the MDOT managed roads for both Japanese knotweed and Phragmites. And we've hit a lot of sites this past year, and we're seeing the knotweed being smaller, so that's always good. And then we're always reaching out to landowners when we find that they have knotweed and offering our services, but it's really up to them on if they want to hire us to do that.
Knotweed's just such a devastating little plant.
Oh, yeah.
Once it gets, because you can't cut it and make it go away. You
No.
can't spray it with Roundup and make it go away. It might be good just to bring some information before the board and present it to the media since it's springtime, so people know what to look for. Because if we can treat or get on it early, that's something that we certainly don't want to be a big spread in Berry County. So, but
Yeah, I can do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Next up, Ben Savoy, Forester, Berry County District, with the spongy moth update.
Well, thank you, Commissioners, for having me. I do want to start off talking about the White Oak Initiative, because that is something that we've been very much involved with for the past couple of years. White oaks in particular, Jamie said it very well, that is a coalition of people that have come together in favor of growing white oaks. They are resistant to oak wilt, but they have been consistently over-harvested by different industries, and we're trying to change change that behavior and also improve the white oak inventory on private lands. As for other questions regarding forests, I will take questions at the end of this and make sure there will be plenty of time. So spongy moth is formerly known as gypsy moth. It's a voracious defoliator, so that means it eats the leaves of trees. And it has a variety of host species. It prefers oak trees, but it also can impact evergreens like blue spruce, white cedar, and it is hosted on a plethora of other hardwood species. Right now, they haven't hatched yet. We'll be beginning to see them at the end of April, early May. And at that point is when we have a lot of the impacts that spongy moth have on the fine citizens of Berry County and the forests that we enjoy. After their feeding cycle of 7 to 8 weeks, the symptoms of their infestation usually fall off, and because the adults don't feed. So we can go on to the next slide. What I want to talk about today is the history of spongy moth, the life cycle of what we see out in the forest, and how we can manage them. Spongy moth has been around for a very long time. It's been around since about the 1800s on a failed silkworm project. Spongy moth do not produce silk, so the person that brought it over just made a very big mistake. It has spreads from the Northeast to basically across the country into Canada. It is a very prolific species. Each egg sac contains about 500 to 600 eggs. And that's the beginning cycle that we can notice this spring before they hatch and cause the problems as the larva. The larva, like I said, will eat constantly for about 2 months, and they are kind of hard to spot at first, but during the feeding cycle, about 4 weeks in, they'll be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches long and very noticeable wherever they're crawling around. The pupa, after they've eaten for about 2 months, will be hidden in different crevices of the trees and are generally when we stop seeing any of the problems with the feeding. And then there's the adults. The adult males are the ones that fly around. They are usually pale in color, and they exist solely for mating. They don't eat, they don't do anything else. They just search out the flightless females that, after they hatch, are emitting pheromones to attract the males. So on to what the problems cause. The problems that are caused by these insects. The next slide will show about the pupa, which most treatments are not effective with the pupa. They look like little brown eggs, basically. They don't do anything besides use the energy that they have gathered from feeding to transform into adults. The next stage is the most effective, the most symptomatic one, which is the larval. The larva will be eating constantly and raining down their excrement, which is the chief complaint about the moths themselves. They last for quite a long time, 2 months. So during that time period, they can cause certain areas to be unlivable. It's the way I've heard it before from my clients. The excrement is slick. It can cause some mild allergenic reactions, and it can stain housing and driveways. So it's a quite nasty little thing. And it also can impact the health of our trees. The damage done to the trees can be complete defoliation, so we lose all of their leaves in a given year. This is what we see in the worst outbreaks. We've seen this occasionally farther up north, but it has happened in the area, in the Barry County area recently. This defoliation can lead to stunted growth, a dieback of branches and limbs, and the death of less healthy trees. We usually see evergreens and smaller trees more harshly impacted by it. Evergreen trees don't regrow their old needles. So when those are fed upon, they don't regrow that back, and it can impact how they can recover from this sort of infestation. And small trees don't have the resources in their roots to be able to bounce back as easily. So it can cause widespread problems across the forest, and even can kill larger trees after enough years of defoliation and after enough severe infestations. So, how can we prepare for this? How can we help ourselves and protect our forests? The first thing that I would recommend this time of year is destroying egg masses. They're very noticeable to the naked eye. In the previous slide, it showed these very hairy egg masses that are about the size of a quarter, usually a little bit bigger than that. They're brown and hairy, and they'll be laid all over the tree, and sometimes on cars, on siding, on the undersides of awnings, basically anywhere that's cool and dark that the moths can reach. If you destroy them by scraping them off into a bucket of soap water, it destroys the eggs and can prevent up to 600 caterpillars from hatching that year. After the eggs have hatched, we can prevent the larvae from feeding by capturing them on the trunk of the tree. So we can do this by either applying a sticky band across the entire trunk of the tree, or by taping around a burlap cloth. Burlap is nice, cool, and dark underneath, and as the larvae are moving to and from the ground and to the leaves, they hide during the day. So they'll try and find these cool, dark places to hide and try and be away from predators. burlap is a great way to trick them into being where you want them to be. And you can check that we can wait for in the spring that are dependent on weather. It's a spring-adapted disease that comes in after a very wet and cool spring that infects the population with the virus, and it can spread through the population as long as those weather conditions are met. It's not harmful to humans, it just affects this caterpillar in particular. So it takes some time and it takes some right weather conditions to go into effect, so it can be unsightly for a few weeks while they are being killed by this disease. There's a fungus that operates in a similar way, but it also needs similar weather conditions. A popular opinion is to apply a treatment, whether that's a chemical spray or doing something like that, a large-scale project to remove these invasive species. It's a management of risk that we have to deal with, because this is a outbreak cycle that these insects go on. They last about 5 to 7 years and then have a steep population crash. So if we apply a treatment right when it's going into that population crash, it could be a waste of resources from the county or from the individual that's trying to spray their property. The cost of the spray is something that has to be considered, because you can't just spray the bottom leaves of the tree with an agent. It has to cover the entirety of the tree, and sometimes these trees are 50, 60, 70 feet tall. So they need aerial equipment to either fly overhead and spray it, or have a helicopter come in and spray the tops of the trees. Some townships have done this. There are limited funds from the state. It is considered an endemic pest, so something that's been around for long enough that it is considered something that we just have to deal with, which is occasionally unacceptable when it comes to the public perception of the damage that it does, because it is quite severe. It does cause a lot of damage and causes a lot of nasty after effects from the feeding. So I don't want to downplay what this insect does. It just is not a priority species from the state's perspective. It is, if we can go into the next slide, it kind of talks about what the associated costs of this are. An example community that has done something about this is Ada Township in Kent County. They'd worked with Hamilton Helicopters, which works out of Hamilton, Michigan, and they had a survey completed by an aquatic consulting service. They had done work on marine life in the lakes before, but they also do terrestrial species, surveys of terrestrial species. Over the nearly 3,000 acres that were treated, it had an approximate cost of $200,000, and this was done by special assessment. So this would be something to be considered by the county if we wanted to do a large-scale treatment program. The risks associated with this would be, once again, the treatment being ineffective. The population could crash at any moment. We're about at year 5 or 6 in this outbreak cycle, so we could see it drop next year on its own, or it could be even worse. The risks of doing a wide-scale treatment is if it's too small, you don't see an effect of the treatment, because the worms will just move in where it was sprayed and continue on. Whereas if you have a larger area that's treated, the center of that is able to feel the effects and be rid of these insects for that time period, but the edges of that will see them encroach back in after the initial wave has been cleared of the insects. So with that, I think that may be the last slide in this. So if there are, oh no, this is one thing that can be done by a citizen's point of view is doing a survey of a large area, either through citizen science or by hiring a consultancy to find out how many egg masses that there are for coming years of infestations and seeing how bad it's going to be. And then weighing that against doing a preemptive spraying. So if it looks like from the egg mass survey that it's going to be very light, not very many effects from it this year, then we can hold off on doing a treatment. Basically, it's just getting the information that we need to make an accurate and effective treatment possible. And with that, I'll take questions from the commissioners or anyone that has questions about forest management.
Mr. Doctor?
If, like I recently had some trees cut in my yard and discovered significant numbers of egg masses. If the tree isn't piled without any foliage, will the larvae won't have anything to eat?
Right.
Would that contain that?
Possibly. So if it's far enough away from other trees, the piled up logs that you would cut down, the initial hatchings may just starve. They won't be able to reach any food. But it is a risk that if it's nearby any other trees, that they'll crawl up there and start feeding and cause that whole new cycle on whatever trees are near your log pile.
And you should you not transport cut wood?
Ideally, yes. The don't move firewood mantra across the state is very accurate. Most firewood, if it's coming from outside of whatever county that you're moving it to, has a possibility of bringing in a whole lot of other pests that can cause even more problems in that area. So don't move firewood.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Commissioner Getty?
With the option of spraying, would that affect other species as well? Any of, our other pollinators, for instance?
Right. So this is another one of those risks associated with the treatment through aerial spraying. The most common chemical used in this is a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis, and that affects all butterflies and moth species. The time of year that this is sprayed, there are very limited other species that are affected by it, but a mistiming can affect a lot of other species, including the monarch butterfly. So early enough in the year, when it's sprayed before anything else has hatched, the spongy moth is usually the first things to hatch. If you can get that time period just right, it doesn't affect anything else.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Commissioner Tennyson?
Does the severity of the winter play into any of this?
It can. Milder winters, you see a higher survival rate of the eggs.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Since we had such a mild winter, expecting that this will be a lot worse this year?
I think we're going to have a pretty big population burst this year, yes.
Interesting. Yes, Shelley?
I just have a quick question. When the trees get covered with that white cottony spiderweb stuff, is that what these look like? Do they do that?
Yeah, the question was, do the spongy moth caterpillars cause this sort of webbing? No, typically not. Usually there are other tent worms that are native pests, still pests, so they're not necessarily nice to see, but those would not be the spongy moth caterpillars that cause that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Back to my question on emerald ash borer.
Yes.
Any treatment, anything we can do? We could see the devastation they've created in the county.
Yeah, so the spread of emerald ash borer has been going on since the early 80s and has covered most of the state of Michigan. So what I'm getting at is it may be too late to do anything in this part of Michigan besides encouraging the growth of resistant ash seedlings. There are some surviving ash from that initial wave of infestation that have some genetic resilience against the feeding. And there are some studies coming out of, I believe, Penn State that are focusing on breeding trees to have higher resilience against emerald ash borer, to plant them and reintroduce them to the areas that they've been devastated in. it's kind of a sad story. So it's not necessarily a happy ending for the ash trees, but we're hoping in areas that haven't been affected by it yet, there are effective treatments for preventing wood-boring beetles like emerald ash borers, injecting trees with a systemic insecticide, so something that gets into the sap and travels throughout the entire tree. As the wood borers get into the tree and start feeding on that, they ingest the insecticide and die. So it's a very effective way to protect a tree for usually 3 to 5 years.
Interesting. Additional questions?
Is there any, what's the next thing on the horizon that invasive species? Obviously, there's got to be some concerns out there about something.
Yeah, so these would be considered our like priority species, at least when I look at it from a forest perspective. The biggest threat I see on the horizon is the Asian longhorn beetle. It is another wood-boring beetle, but this one, unlike the emerald ash borer, doesn't have a particular species that it likes. It goes across a wide variety of different trees. It hasn't been seen in Michigan yet, so we're quite thankful for that. But it has been seen in southern Ohio, so it's just a bad trip, a bad firewood movement north to cause something like that to come in.
Mm-hmm. Lantern moths?
Yes, that's one that I'm not as familiar with, but it is a forest pest in the way that it is a leaf hopper. The spotted lanternfly feeds on the sap of trees and can cause some detrimental health effects. It's similar to spongy moth in that it lays a lot of egg masses. You see a lot of them. They're very unsightly. They cause a lot of gross things around them. But we won't see like entire tracts of forest killed off like we see with emerald ash borer. It's going to be a bigger problem around orchards where they impact fruit productions quite significantly.
Okay. Commissioner Hatfield, do you have a question?
Evelyn has a question.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, regarding the invasive plant species, if they're discovered on private property and they're reported, is there financial assistance then in addressing that issue on private land? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, for priority species, that's where we can possibly get funding to help with invasive species on private property.
Is there a list then of what those priority species are?
Yes, there are. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, is on the DNR's website, the priority species list?
Yeah, so anything that's in the state of Michigan watch list is more likely to get funding from the state, usually through the system. Then we can go out and help. Sometimes if it's a new forest pest, sometimes MDOT takes care of it themselves, depending on what it is.
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like there's a variety of options if it's on the state watch list. Yeah.
Eldon.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, I know when I was working at Michigan State University down at the biological research farms, they were working in the lab, they was working on trees to try to figure out how they can make trees that are pest resistant, like the gypsy caterpillar and the emerald ash borer. How far along on their research have they come along in order to create more pest resistant trees?
Yeah, so creating pest-resistant trees, because trees take so long to grow, it's a long-term study. We are in, I believe, the second generation of breeding in pest resistance, which means that fairly close to getting to a point where if these hybrids and genetic tests are fertile, we can reintroduce them into their native habitat. So we're pretty close.
Okay. John.
More selective cutting, especially with regards to the state lands, thinning out some of these forests, which are way overgrown in a lot of areas, but identifying the problem areas or whatever and getting the selective cutting out of it, plus providing funding for the county, is that an option, or does that help with any of this?
Absolutely. So forest management and timber cutting is a part of forest management, and it's something that we encourage on private and public lands to not only get the resources off of that, get a value from the timber that's produced, but also improve the health of the forest by letting new growth come in to replace the older generations and improve the health of our crop trees for the future.
Awesome. John?
Is there a type of soil or geographic area that white oak would grow better on? Higher ground?
Yeah, white oak prefers kind of high and dry, like most oaks. They like really well-drained soil, so kind of the sandy gravel we have around in Berry County. They have a deep taproot, like the oak species and I believe chestnut species have these deep taproots that help them reach resources that other species can't reach. So they need this really gravelly, sandy soil to penetrate deep down.
Well drained.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, Ben, I thank you for all that information. Oops, one more.
That same question, that root rot, that oak.
Oak wilt.
That attacks the red oak, I think.
Yeah, oak wilt.
Yeah, where in that whole cycle are we in that? Is that gonna still kill off a lot of trees?
So oak wilt's been around with us for a long time as well. I want to say since I think it's been recorded since the 1800s, but we're seeing more of it now, mostly likely to changes in our climate. The cycle that we're in right now is that it's very spotty. We see new patches kind of coming in where trees are injured either by windstorms or lightning strikes or people running their tractors into their oak tree in the front yard. It's something that it's not completely widespread. It's going to kill off all our oaks, but it's something that we need to be aware of.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time, Ben and Jamie. Thank you for your presentations this morning. Okay, the board is going to take about a 5 to 7 minute recess, and we'll be back in just a few. Thank you.
Nebraska?
No, they are.
Yes.
Yep, I know you.
You will pay on that one.
I expect so.
The board will come back in session. Items for consideration, Commissioner Smelker.
Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of claims in the amount of $115,764.85.
Is there support?
Support, Hatfield.
Motion by Smelker, support by Hatfield for approval and transfers and disbursements. Approval of claims in the amount of $115,764.85. Discussion. Hearing none. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Colton,
Yes.
Getty,
Yes.
Smelker,
Yes.
Hatfield,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Tunison,
Yes.
Doster, Jackson,
Yes. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of Resolution 24-06 to adopt a citizens' participation plan for the CDBG Housing Improving Local Livability Chill Program and approval of MSHDA Chill Grant administrative contract with Smith Housing Consulting, the management plan for the county and Smith Housing Consulting, and exempt activity, the Form 05-B as required by MSHDA, MSHDA, and HUD for performing an environmental review Peer 1 and Peer 2 for the Chill Grant.
Is there support?
Support Campbell.
Motion by Smelker, support by Campbell for approval of Resolution 24-06 to adopt a citizen participation plan for the CDBG Housing Improving Local Livability Chill Program and approval of MSHDA Chill Grant Administrative Contract with Smith Housing Consulting, the management plan for the county and Smith Housing Consulting, and exempt activity form 05-B is required by MSHDA and HUD performing the environmental review Tier 1 and Tier 2 for the Chill Grant. Discussion. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Getty,
Aye.
Smelker,
Aye.
Hatfield,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Tunison,
Aye.
Doster,
Aye.
Colton,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of an additional $72,997.23 from the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Funds for the Paul Henry Thornapple Trail Improvement Project due to inflationary increases from the original granted amount for construction improvements to the Nashville East and Thornapple Manor sections of the trail.
Support, Getty.
Motion by Smelker, support by Getty for approval of an additional $72,997.23 from the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Funds for the Paul Henry Thornapple Trail Improvement Projects due to inflationary increases from the original granted amount for construction improvements to the Nashville East and Thornapple Manor sections of the trail. Discussion. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Smelker,
Aye.
Hatfield,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Tunison,
Aye.
Doster,
Aye.
Colton,
Aye.
Getty,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye. The motion is approved.
Can I make a statement, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Because this is very exciting to me because at least 25 years ago when I was on the Village of Nashville Board, we started on this, and now this is finally coming to fruition. And I previously mentioned that I received my first of many political tar and featherings on this issue.
I think it was worth it.
Outstanding. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have none. County Administrator's Report.
I'm all set, thank you.
Chairperson's Report. Just to make a statement, I did have a chance when Bruce was on vacation to go to Johnstown Township to talk to them a little more in depth about the wind and solar project that's being addressed or being looked at for Johnstown Township. There is some citizen-led verbiage for an ordinance put together by Kelly Case and that team that was reviewed. It was also given to consumers for their review. They've They have some agreement with Johnstown, between Johnstown Township, the Citizens Committee, consumers. I think there's some agreement and a path forward on some ordinance language. I've taken that and sent it up to Michael so he can look at the questions, the red line reviews, which we're going to submit to our attorney for review as well. We hope to continue this process moving forward so we can have that discussion, get back with the changes, because the citizen-led ordinance was very strictly based on solar. It didn't have anything to do with wind. We have to put it in the framework of the entire county and how it impacts everybody. So we're looking to put that in the hands of our attorney and kind of move that forward, then take it back first to Johnstown and to this board, and to have more input on that before it goes back to planning and zoning for approval and for a public hearing. So we're trying to be sure that there is participation from around the county, since we've been told by Mr. McManus that, I think he had mentioned at some point, 14 of 16 townships have had requests or inquiries about solar projects. So it's not something just in Johnstown, but at 1,000 acres, this is probably the largest project that we'll see in the area. So we're carefully moving forward with that, trying to do it expeditiously, but by the same token, we want to do it right and do it thoughtfully and get the input from the people where it matters. So, yes, Commissioner Tunison.
Consumers is willing to wait, I hope, while we get this ordinance in place.
Consumers has been patient. I'm not sure they appreciate our pace on this, but, fast-moving government is dangerous sometimes. So, like I said, we need to take our time and do it. But they've been a good partner to work with on this, so, they've given some good input, so.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Vice Chairperson's report.
We had a very good Planning Commission meeting last night. Most of the meeting was consumed with a discussion on a development of an ordinance for planned mineral removal, which is now the replacement term for gravel pits. But we've got, I think, an excellent start. A lot of comment last night, both primarily from commissioners, but also from a few members in attendance. The attorney, Ron Riddick, is now taking those comments and incorporating them into the draft, so we'll have a revised draft to look at our next meeting, and hopefully we'll have it ready to bring to this board the following month. I think it's got a lot of good safeguards built into it. Most importantly, it will be a document that if we have other parties interested in establishing a mineral removal operation, we'll be able to give them this so that they know right up front all the hoops that they're going to have to jump through, and they are considerable. So more to come.
Will this board review or approve that at some point as well, or is that just an amendment to?
No, this will be a new ordinance, rather than an amendment to the existing.
Okay, awesome. Commissioner Tunison.
Got a airport board meeting tomorrow with John and I, and we was discussing the new terminal out there that's going to be proposed out there. Get some updates with the new engineering firm and stuff, so looking forward to that.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
First, I'd like to thank Chairman Jackson for stepping in and handling all the things going on down there in Baltimore. A great bunch of people down there. And also, I was gone on a cruise, and I don't think I should get in-depth on my report on that, so I think we'll just leave it at that. I'm glad to be home safely, not looking at water every day.
Commissioner Doster.
I've been pushing on a couple of these boards that I serve on, the Area Agency on Aging and the SWIMBA boards have large fund balances at times to more aggressively invest those to our current market rates, and I'm seeing some good change in their abilities to do that, and they're doing a lot more short-term CD rates, and it's creating a significant influx of money that we didn't have here the last couple of years. So right now, that's kind of where I'm putting my focus on those two boards.
Thank you. Commissioner Colton.
You all received this in your packet from the Commission on Aging Board. The Lasagna Dinner is Friday, April 19th. It's their biggest fundraiser of the year. It's really important. That lasagna is as delicious as it looks in this picture. And my wife and I had this last year, and we agreed, although it's half the price, it was twice as good as lasagna from, I'm going to be careful, and this is my statement, not the board's, a leading Italian restaurant chain. Now, they don't have breadsticks, but they do have garlic bread. So I'm telling you, it's well worth the price. Oh, you can get tickets from me, any board member, any employee, or at the Commission on Aging itself.
And Commissioner Collin, you better mention it's going to be at the old Ever After banquet facility versus the Commission on Aging.
And I will be serving.
Ooh, fantastic.
So,
What is the price? We didn't hear that.
Well, Angela is serving, and that, I think, raises the price. No, it's $12.
$12. Thank you. Commissioner Getty.
On behalf of the Berry County Parks and Rec Board, I just want to thank the commissioners for the extra support. We really hoped to be able to make improvements on all the sections that we proposed through the ARPA funding, and instead we really had to choose the most impactful sections. And I think Mr. Patton did a good job last week of going through that. And that Nashville section, like Commissioner Colton referenced, is a game changer for the village of Nashville. And we have confidence that Eaton County is going to complete the missing section between Nashville and Vermontville. So it will create a very long section of paved trail between those two municipalities and really increase the access for those residents, plus people visiting, to be able to get out, safely use miles of trail for things like getting to school and shopping, running errands, visiting friends. Super impactful. The section at Thornapple Manor and adjacent to Berry County Christian, again, really just improves access to trail. And it's just an exciting time to be part of the Parks Board and part of Berry County, and that we will become known as a trail destination because our sections of trail are as pretty as any section in the whole state.
I think it's a great section out there by Thornapple as well. Completing that campus, that work going forward with the vision we have for that out there is going to be fantastic. So super excited about that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Smelker.
Had a central dispatch meeting yesterday. We have been contracting to get the new MDCs, mobile data computer, into our cruisers. And we've had a slight hiccup on them, on mounting and stuff, so we are re-looking at it. And hopefully we can work that out with Motorola.
Thank you. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Darrell Cheeseman, Castleton Township. I want to thank you guys for giving us some additional dollars to complete as much of this project as we possibly could at this time. It'll be very nice once we get this done. You know, when you're out on a trail and you can clearly see, yep, this is a railroad grade, you're great, right? But when you get into another area and it's, well, where's the trail? These projects will make it so that I think a lot more people will be able to use the trail in Nashville because they'll be able to see, yep, here it is, and nice surface, and so, thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Morning again, Gary White, Caston Township. As I said last time, it's not uncommon that things lead into what I'm going to be in here. Slow government comment was made. Slow government is not necessarily good as opportunities are missed, and slow government costs the taxpayers much money. Commissioners last year abolished the elected officials compensation committee last year and set up a committee that was going to take it over, along with some other duties. I'm at a loss at this time why the compensation has not been set, as nominating petitions are due in next month. People should know what the compensation is that they may or may not be signing up for. So that is extremely important. Is the committee waiting to see who signs up? Are they waiting to see if they or who wins the primary? These are questions that you can just come up with, you know, but when you took it over, it should have been an immediate, okay, let's go get on this because it's an election year. People need to know what the compensation is going to be. So once again, are you waiting until after the primary? Because the primary in Berry County is where most elected officials are elected in Berry County. Clearly the compensation committee had a handle on this before they were abolished. I have received or reviewed the ending of salary schedules and have requested the new ones that came into effect the first of this year. What I noticed from last one is that the compensation committee actually did a pretty good job, but it is a cycle that they have to go through, where the commissioners have made the top position and the bottom position, once again, a larger, how do you want to say it, larger wage discrepancy or disparaging. To go on to the next thing, Facilities Ad Hoc Committee. Why do we have an ad hoc committee when it does not have to follow the Open Meetings Act? Clearly, the Open Meetings Act has been being eroded away by state legislatures and not really representing transparency to the public. The reason I did that for you earlier today was because it said the Board of Commissioners penned this, more or less. So that's a huge concern to me, because did you pen it in a closed meeting of your own selves, or what took place there? I don't believe it was done by commissioners based on what I'm being told. So it's just one of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Hello. Shelley Lake Irving. First, I wanted to say thank you to Cindy White for all of your hard work in the February election, all the new machines coming in and organizing all that. You have done a wonderful job at clerk, and you're appreciated by so many people. The next thing is the Berry County Republican Party is having our Lincoln Day Dinner hoedown biggest fundraiser. It's on May 18th, Saturday. Western Attire will have awards. We've got a band, the Stranded Hobos, that are all veterans. If you go to our website, you can buy tickets there. It's berrycountyrepublican.org, and just wanted to share that info.
Thank you, Shelley. Additional public comment?
Good morning, Joel Ibbotson, Rutland Township. I'll give a report of our vacation because it was kind of interesting. We went up to Bay County. They have a different form of government there. They are a PA 139 county. And to my daughter's recommendation, we actually went and visited the county building up there, which I think is all of 15 stories tall, built in 1930. Very interesting. So anyway, unbeknownst to Mr. Brown, I've been conniving a way to be able to keep him here, because if we set up our form of government as theirs, then we could elect him as the executive, and you guys would be the legislature, so to speak, because they have an executive and a board of commissioners. So anyway, if you're ever looking for places to go, I highly recommend you check out the local county building of where you are going on vacation. They gave us the USS Edson, which we checked out, was a battleship and was used during the Vietnam War. They gave us the name of museums to attend, to the best ice cream shops and so forth. And so I was very impressed, all of that by the recommendation of their drain commissioner, who keeps a skunk on his desk. So check out Bay County. It's incredible. The people there are friendly, and I hope that people take that recommendation when they come here to Berry County and speak to you guys and see what to do here. Thanks.
Thank you, Joel.
Alderman Sean Barger Hastings. I would like to address, and I still have heard no positive answers on this last primary election, with every township having problems, according to the records I got from the clerk's office. And anyway, I would like to take and was told that there was typo errors, and which is it? Was it typo errors? Was it human error? What was it? Because I still have no answers and still have as many questions now as I did then, because I have not been given any answers. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a slot for state and county officials that we went through quickly before you got here, so.
Yeah, I was on my way. Sorry, I came from another meeting. I had a assembly at my youngest child's school. They did an assembly this morning on encouragement, which was awesome. So first, I just want to thank you all for serving. Your service is much appreciated. I know that we don't hear that often as public officials. So I'm not here kind of as a state rep. I'm just letting you know that there is a town hall meeting April 11th at Oscar Scott's in Caledonia that is regarding the wind and solar. We do have the organization coming in that's spearheading this citizens initiative. So if you are interested in that, you can go to my Facebook page and find that graphic, and please share it out. And as always, if you need anything from me, you know where to reach me. I believe all of you have my cell phone numbers. Please use it. So, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for supporting Citizens for Local Choice.
Absolutely.
Larry Bass, Carlton Township. Just for your information, and you already know this, but there's a Republican meeting this Thursday. 5:30 starts a members meeting. The EC meeting starts at 7 o'clock. You're all Republicans, right? I expect to see you all there. Okay, that'd be nice. That'd be nice to see for a change. Okay? I'm going to pair something Cindy just said earlier. I watched the video of the meeting last week, in the comm meeting. I was appalled and upset and frustrated at some of the comments that were made when the Second Amendment resolution was being discussed. Some of them were totally inaccurate. Okay, and for the life of me, I don't understand why the cow doesn't send something up to the BOC for an up or down vote. That's all they want to see, primarily. But you know where my allegiance lays. I'd like to see some sort of Second Amendment put forth. But I almost brought a cannon today to give you guys, so you can stop kicking this thing around and take action on it. So I, for one, am tired of it. We elected you to lead foul, or get out of the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
just so I made sure I gave you the information that Thomas Jefferson gave us verbatim. I had the right book, but it was flipped to a wrong page, and I didn't want to take time earlier to look for it. Thomas Jefferson says, "On every question of construction on the Constitution, carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. Recollect the spirit manifested in the debates, and instead of trying what meaning may be squeezed out of the context or invented against it, conform to the probable one in which it was passed." So, let's listen to some things that our forefathers said regarding to the Second Amendment. James Madison, who is known as the father of the Constitution. "The advantage of being armed is an advantage which the Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation. In the several kingdoms of Europe, the governments are afraid to trust the people with arms." Thomas Jefferson, "No citizen shall be debarred the use of arms within his own lands." John Adams, "Resistance to sudden violence for the preservation not only of my person, my limbs, and my life, but of my property is an indisputable right of nature, which I never surrendered to the public by the compact of society, and which, perhaps, I could not surrender if I would. The maxims of the law and the precepts of the Christianity are precisely coincident in relation to this subject." Alexander Hamilton, "The Supreme Being gave existence to man, together with the means of preserving that existence. He invested man with an inviolable right to personal liberty and personal safety, all of which our Second Amendment protects. And when we eliminate that, we eliminate all our other rights." Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Additional public comment?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for your service also. Dave Lonsma, Yankee Springs Township. You made a statement regarding the interest amongst the various townships in this solar endeavor, and I would caution everyone to not put a lot of, have their proxies going around and asking questions of landowners, and if they get a simple response, yeah, come back, talk to me about money, or it could be any response, they'll say, well, see, there's interest. But I'm pretty certain that there's not a deep interest in actually developing this solar energy project. It's a horrible waste of money, and we ought to be looking far forward beyond old technology, which is found in this solar energy. I was also very disappointed with your remarks regarding our sheriff's ongoing investigation in the election integrity issue. I think this served as an attempt to disparage and distance yourself from an extremely important investigation, and would be better served if you had just held those comments and let this investigation play out. I don't think we need to be deserting our sheriff at this time. There's an awful lot of evidence that has been submitted and researched, and I think we need to let this be seen, heard, studied, and then decide what's coming of it. And also disappointed in the lack of action on the Second Amendment resolution. I mean, for certain, this is something we ought to be able to get behind. The tendency to walk away or distance ourselves or yourselves from the sheriff in this investigation is seems to be indicative of what I've seen in other government officials, especially at the federal level, where when it comes time for them to take action and take a hard line on constitutionally protected rights, they suddenly fold so easily, it's just makes you crazy. Let's just stand firm. Let's just understand what we stand for, what we've taken an oath to, what we are willing to support, and just make a stand. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
John Lake, Irving Township. I'm going to save a lot of what I got to say till next week after the cow. But Bruce, I'm with you. I'm not going on any more cruises. Been on a lot of them, actually. maybe quite not as fun as yours. Fact is, over a third of my life I served in the military. I've seen very good leaders. I've seen leaders I would follow to the depths of hell. I've also seen some bad leadership. As I went through my career, I had a choice. And I can tell you to this day, I have people calling me up thanking me for what I did. A good leader leads from the front. If you want to find me, I'll be out front. I want to thank Commissioners Tunison, Commissioner Smelker, Commissioner Calton for taking the lead on this Second Amendment. You listen to your people that are in the districts. I said it last week, 8 townships, I've been to 13. Only 2 have voted no. There's a couple more that are waiting. But 8 townships have voted for this Second Amendment. I don't understand what the holdup is here. A year ago, this Thursday, was the EC meeting in which 4 of you guys voted for the resolution that we put forth. And I know 3 of you are working on a current one. Quite honestly, I would like you to bring up for a motion the resolution that we put forth as the Berry County Republican Party. And we'll get an up or down vote. And that will tell us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Good morning, Rick Moore, Berry County Park Commission. I wish to thank the commissioners for their continuing support of the Paul Henry Thornapple Trail, because it's very important for people to go out and go for a walk. It's extremely important for the village of Nashville. It's Thornapple Trail Association, who used to own that property, tried giving it to Nashville in '94, and it didn't work out real well. But there is strong community support, and we knew that it would work out really well if we took the time to educate folks and let them know that they don't have to go for a walk, but once they see the trail, they want to. I used to do maintenance for many years. Even on the grass and gravel section of the trail, there was quite a few people using it. The advantage of having a paved trail is handicapped people can use it, and people who are unsteady while they're walking will not step on a rock and stumble. A story I've been selling for the last 30 plus years is how it's important to have a bicycle trail and behind the Thornapple Manor in the Ball Diamonds. I wanted to put them where the sewage lagoons were. Didn't work out. But I've been working on this battle for over 40 years. And so when the opportunity came for the Christian Church to have a ball field back there and use some of the park property, I could deal with that. And now with a paved trail, as I said last week, and you might remember, that the old folks can roll over and watch the young people play ball, and the young people can look at the old folks and say, you know, I better take better care of myself. And so I'm in better shape than that. And so then we all benefit. And so it's a very important, those sections, the Thornapple Manor section and the Nashville section are extremely important. But all the other sections are being used, the grass and gravel trails. There is strong community support in Thornapple Township. So I'm looking forward to opening up the section through Parmalee so I can put up a sign where Parmalee Mountain is. No one has heard of that but me. And that's where they hooked up a second locomotive to the train to get the load of pickles into Grand Rapids, because for some reason there raised a lot of pickles in Nashville and Vermontville and Hastings. They don't seem to do that anymore. But the engineers called it Parmalee Mountain. And I'm always looking for these potential landmarks on the trail so people could say, hey, let's go ride to Parmalee Mountain today. Or let's go by and look at Juke's Blood Lagoon in Middleville, that kind of stuff. Because we're a recreational community, and I want to take advantage of that, and let's all work together to make us all healthier. Thank you very much. I appreciate your opportunity to speak, and I'm Rick Moore, and I support this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Additional public comment? Hearing none, commissioner comments. Commissioner Doster.
I'd like to commend the Personnel Committee. I think that, after reading the minutes, I think that that appears to be working just about the way that we had anticipated, had hoped that it would at its highest level. And I don't have a problem with the recommendations coming on the consent agenda for the regular meeting. I think that's very appropriate, because it can be pulled off at the request of any commissioner.
Efficient, yep. Commissioner Calton? Commissioner Getty?
Add a little information about the trail project. So while we had proposed 4 sections and only able to make the improvements on 2 of them, we did do the engineering and design for those other 2 sections as well. So I think we are poised to complete those, in time, hopefully with support from those municipalities in which they reside. So, good things still ahead.
Awesome, thank you. Commissioner Smelker?
Nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Hatfield?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Campbell?
I'd just like to reiterate for Shelley over here on the May 18th Stranded Hobos Band. I'm very familiar with them because they are all veterans, very good band, and be very enjoyable.
Thank you. Commissioner Tennyson?
All set, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And to everybody's surprise, I have nothing either. So, thank you and have a great day. Stay dry.